Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show that we do every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern now. Previously, we were doing it a little later, but now we're doing it at 2 p.m. Eastern every Friday, where we recap the events of the week, talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. And as we do every week, we have a lot to talk about. My name is Brandon, social media manager here at Trust Machines, and we're joined by Longstreet on the leather handle. Longstreet, how you doing, sir?
Great, Brandon. GM, how are you today?
I'm good. Happy Friday. It's been, for those in the U.S., we had the 4th of July yesterday, so it's a bit of a kind of short week, I guess, although we're still working on Friday. It's a little awkward, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like, are we working today? Are we not? Some people are doing. Some people are unavailable to come into work today.
Yeah, that tracks. But yeah, it's definitely been a little bit of a slower day, I would say, and a slower week overall. I think people, tend to not, announce too many things over the week. So news wise, actually, it was a pretty busy week this week. So we have a lot to get into.
Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't stop.
Yeah, I mean, the price goes down, but, certainly Bitcoin itself doesn't stop.
I couldn't be more excited, man. This is what a great opportunity to stack some more sats, more than you would otherwise if you're dollar cost averaging. And, it just gives more people more time to get in before the inevitable, bull market that is going to follow. So, yeah, it kind of feel like who's selling right now? Like, even if it was at 60 or 70, like who would be selling right now? I think most people listening, most people who are like in the audience, who are knowledgeable about Bitcoin, they probably have longer term goals and price targets. And yeah, it's not a time to sell anytime soon. So it's a good day.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like we've been pretty flat for a really long time, and we've kind of been due for some sort of correction for a bit. And yeah, it's healthy, right? It's just a sign of the market's continuing to evaluate what the price of Bitcoin should be, and sometimes it's going to go up, sometimes it's going to go down, and over time it's more likely to go up, but it's healthy that it doesn't go up, all the time.
Yeah, can't be up and right forever.
Yeah,
there was a good tweet from Charles Edwards, and I'll pin it in a moment, because he said Bitcoin's all-time longest winning streak has just ended. So it was 427 days without a 25% drawdown, and that beat the 2012 record by 63 days. So it's been an incredible run, and we're due for a healthy correction.
That's interesting. So does that, looking at, I guess, the chart here, it's so interesting how cyclical Bitcoin is. Looking at this chart, we'll get it pinned so those that are listening can see it. But it's basically about every 4 years or so there's there's a peak here, and then it drops. So yeah, it's just really interesting to see how this 4-year cycle of Bitcoin just continues to play out.
Yeah, indeed. Let the volatility continue and keep on stacking sats and educating yourself.
Yeah. Well, in I guess Trust Machines news, we had some big news this week. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about your Leather Lounge show that was sort of a doubleheader between Dan Trevino from Boom Wallet and Christopher Perceptions from No Code Clarity. And for those that are in the audience listening, you are probably may already be familiar with those names. But yeah, two huge Stacks OGs. I really enjoyed that show, and yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, thanks, man. It really was a fantastic show. I've learned so much. We just ended our first season, and Wednesday's show was the first episode of season 2, our summer season. And yeah, we did a double header because, I mean, this is a weekly show, and there's a lot happening in the space. You wouldn't think it's a bear market by all of the building and things happening here. So I wanted to just try to bring as much content and educational material to the audience as possible. So yeah, we had a double header, and they were the perfect pair. So Dan Trevino built something called Boom Wallet, and Christopher Perceptions built something called No Code Clarity. And there was a this universal thread from a lot of people who joined us either on stage or in the audience, and that was that Dan Trevino onboarded them onto Stacks a long time ago. So his journey started a while ago in Bitcoin. He found out about Ethereum and discovered Munib, who was building on Ethereum and then Bitcoin, and then he found out about Blockstack, and he was really really one of the first people to start developing and understanding Clarity code and then building things. So much in the Stacks ecosystem is waiting for the Nakamoto upgrade, which is happening in August, but we were able to really understand what these people are building, the tremendous value that they're bringing, and especially the conversation. It opened up a little bit more with Christopher Perceptions, and he was able to give us some perspective on where he's coming from and what some of his experiences have been like as an educator and trying to onboard people into Bitcoin, and what he thinks it can do really to make the world a better place. So I was just super charged up by this week's conversation. So if you missed it, definitely go check out, look at the leather handle, and yeah, have a listen to the conversation with Dan Trevino with Boom Wallet and Christopher Perceptions with No Code Clarity. And we also had a check in from Hero Gamer. Hello, Hero. On the D Grants space, because they're on their second cohort of something called the D Grants program, and they're just making like tremendous progress, not only educating people but bringing in really growing a thriving community on the Stacks ecosystem. And yeah, this is their second cohort, so continuing to build. So yeah, it was a fantastic show. It was probably my favorite show we've had so far.
Yeah, it was pretty great, and I love. We've talked about it on this show a lot, right? How you can be a builder on Bitcoin without being a developer, and no code clarity really embodies that. With I don't need to be a dev to even be able to make clarity contracts at this point, right? That's the goal that they're doing over there. So, yeah, pretty incredible stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, but it's great. Oh, and then we are also changing our show time. So Leather Lounge will be every Thursday now at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, yeah. So we're Thursdays now instead of Wednesdays. Just so we're not conflicting with as many spaces happening, and we can make sure that more people are tuning in. And it's also a good opportunity as well to plug our YouTube channel. We've been posting about it periodically, but we are posting both highlights and the full episodes as well. I believe are also getting posted to YouTube. So if you want to go back and uh, watch, I guess it's not video recorded, but you can watch some waveforms moving around. You can do that on YouTube.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see the educational content being produced by Leather, because there's a lot of YouTubers out there, but honestly, searching for the signal through the noise is quite difficult. And I think that's really off-putting for a lot of people. Maybe for anyone who has had a couple touches into the Bitcoin ecosystem, they probably have experienced they have probably had some experiences that turn them off with like those YouTube like images where the person's face is open, their hands are on their, it's gonna do this, and how could people take that seriously? So yeah, we are aiming to produce and release great content, short, accurate information that is easy to digest.
Yeah, I love that. I think we definitely need more of that in this space, especially on, you know, other platforms. And like you said, kind of, I guess, filtering out a lot of noise, which definitely exists. When I think of like YouTube and crypto, I just think of like a bunch of pump and dumps and just a
Mhm.
bunch of junk, honestly. So,
Yeah.
the fact that we're going on there and yeah, and putting some valuable content in the space is definitely needed and a good thing. It's good for Bitcoin.
Yeah. It is good for Bitcoin. Speaking of good for Bitcoin, you want to give us some more info on Dot Locker?
Yeah, so that was for us definitely the biggest launch, biggest thing for this week, and I'm really excited that we get to talk about it now because this has been something really that has been in the works since before I even joined Trust Machines. This idea of orange domains has been, yeah, just something that the team has been working on for a very long time. So the fact that we now get to talk about it publicly is really
Yeah.
really exciting. And
Okay.
go
Well,
ahead.
okay. Maybe I. Well, okay. I know you're about to explain it, but I also was curious about because Stacks really started. Blockstack started basically as a BNS, right? It was a way of. It was the Bitcoin naming service. Like that's at the core of what Stacks is and what Mooney was trying to build. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. I mean, originally it came from Namecoin.
Right.
And yeah, it's gone through a bunch of iterations since then. But yeah, that's really, I mean, a lot of Stack's history is rooted in BNS.
Okay.
And yeah, there's a huge, dedicated, still, very dedicated BNS community of folks that are on there that are, looking to grow the ecosystem. And there's a lot of existing BNS names, .btc. We see many .btcs even in the audience right now. For folks, you have .btc, your Longstreet.btc, right? There's
Yeah.
a storied history of BNS. I have, I don't have it in my name, but I have, Brandon Marshall.btc. Like a lot of us have .btc names, and
Yeah.
definitely one thread. It's interesting, with the launch. You know, what Locker is trying to essentially do is bring Web 2 into Web 3. And we're trying to onboard more people from Web 2 into Web 3. And how Locker is going to do that is anybody that purchases a Locker domain name, and you would purchase that on, a traditional platform, right? Like a GoDaddy or,
Hmm.
other registrars that are out there where you traditionally purchase domain names. But that purchase of a domain name also comes with an equivalent BNS name, .locker, and
Hmm.
that so they're sort of bridged together in Web 2 and Web 3. And one thing that's really exciting that I don't think enough people are talking about is just the fact that we have this joint venture. This Orange Domains is not just Trust Machines. Orange Domains is Two Cows, which is one of the largest registrars in the world, uh,
Hmm.
and Hero Systems, and Dish, which many people know from Dish Network, but they're
Wow.
just a huge telecom provider in general. So
Wow.
it's a big deal, right? These companies have a very vested interest now in growing Bitcoin and growing BNS. They're on board, right? They're part of this joint venture with Trust Machines. So just that alone is really exciting. Dish is a publicly traded company. Um, so yeah, that alone is really exciting. That more companies are getting on board with Bitcoin and specifically trying to grow this ecosystem. And I don't want to talk too much about it because we're planning sort of a dedicated Twitter space. I want to make sure that we have the folks that are actually building Orange domains, the folks that are building .locker, that are building even BNS v2, which is also going to be, we're going to have more information on BNS v2 very soon as well. So I want to hear directly from the source versus me talking about it because I didn't build it.
Right.
So yeah, we're planning that. I think we're going to have it next Friday on this, on Good for Bitcoin essentially. But we'll see if the time, we're obviously we want to coordinate with some of the main folks. So still trying to lock in that time with everybody, but that's the plan for now anyway, is to have a dedicated space for it. But really, dot locker is, it's good for Bitcoin, it's good for BNS, right? It's good for the entire ecosystem. um when we think of just the fact that all these registrars like GoDaddy, I keep saying GoDaddy just because they're like kind of one of the biggest ones, but we posted on the dot locker account that we have dozens and dozens of registrars that are already onboarded to the solution, and we're working on, of course, even more. But all of these companies, all of these registrars are now going to be selling dot locker names, which means that they're all going to be selling BNS names essentially, or at least BNS as a component.
Yep.
I was on a space the other day and I was talking about it, and I equated it kind of to the ETFs, right? Now we have like all these
Right.
ETF providers that are essentially, they have sales teams, and they're going out and they're basically selling Bitcoin to people that want to buy it. And now we are going to have a bunch of registrars that are out here selling BNS names. And that's
You-
really exciting.
Yeah, one of the biggest pluses to me is that it makes people aware that Bitcoin is not just an asset that has an association with the price of a dollar, right? There's functionality. There's also Bitcoin, the blockchain, and I don't even know how long it took me to realize that the blockchain had so much more functionality than just, proving who sent what Bitcoins where, right? So the fact that the rest of the world is waking up and getting and understanding that there's Bitcoin the asset and Bitcoin the blockchain, and it's world changing. So yeah, it's good for Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a really good point though, and a good reminder of sort of who our target, one of our main kind of target audiences is for dot locker. It's really for these people that don't even have that knowledge yet of, BTC the asset versus BTC the network. Like there's going to be a lot of education that's going to be required on our part, on the registrar's part. There's just in general going to be a lot of education required for this to work, that we'll be, of course, creating. But it's a good reminder that most people outside of our little, stacks and Bitcoin bubbles don't understand those things yet. Um, but they will. And, dot locker is just one of the solutions. It's going to sort of help bridge that gap, because it is literally bridging Web 2 and Web 3 together.
Wow, beautiful. Do you know when the next space is scheduled?
So we want to potentially do it on next week's Good for Bitcoin show. I just don't know. I don't have everyone confirmed yet. Like we wanted to bring on even like Manib potentially to talk about it, and I just need to confirm everyone's schedules. So stay tuned, but we'll be announcing it on the Trust Machines account when we're having it, and hopefully next week sometime. But
All right,
TBD.
stay tuned. Yeah, cool. So what about some of this industry news? You want to tell us about Sony?
Yeah, this I thought. Did you see this? I thought this was so weird when I saw the headline.
Yeah.
And it was basically like, yeah, Sony's launching a crypto exchange, and that just sounds so wild to me. Like,
Yeah.
I guess it just depends on where you are. Sony is just a huge corporation, so I guess it does maybe make sense for those outside of the U.S. Like when I think of Sony from the U.S., I think of like PlayStation and TVs and consumer electronics, right? And it's interesting. So basically, Sony Corporation is going to be relaunching this cryptocurrency exchange in Japan called Whalefin. And I guess they had acquired it from Amber Group last year in 2023. And yeah, it's just super interesting. They plan to restart the crypto exchange soon with a new app aiming to enhance the UI and expand the supported currencies and functions. So yeah, Sony's getting involved in crypto, and I think you know I've heard a lot of people talk about, back in the day, right? There was a lot of companies that they used to market themselves as like internet companies, right? And now they're just companies. Like
Mhm.
every company is an
Right.
internet company. And I think this
Yeah.
is just, that same theme of companies will all companies eventually will be crypto companies. So it's just a matter of time. But yeah, interesting move from Sony to be getting into crypto like that.
True. It also is the kind of a headline that I, in the past, would associate with like, oh, there's the top right there, top signal. But we're not at the top, so
Yeah, I mean,
it's still
we're definitely getting no shortage of I guess celebrities now that are
yeah,
getting involved in crypto, which is a little bit of a top signal, and that kind of scares me a bit. But um, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Doesn't feel
yeah.
like it yet.
Last cycle's top signal is just every day, I guess. This time around, I wonder what the new top signals will be.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. I mean, well, I mean, I guess the main thing that's been sort of moving, or what seems like the main thing that's really been moving the price this week, is all this Mount Gox news, and we talked about it last week. And there's been kind of more news this week that they have actually potentially started to pay out creditors back in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Um,
Mhm.
so I think it was even this morning I read that kind of some more coins from Mt. Gox wallets moved, like billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin moved around. And anytime any movement happens in those coins, the market freaks out. But yeah, I read also this morning that it looks like some creditors may have to wait up to 3 months. So we might have 3 months of Mt. Gox FUD to sort of contend with. Um, so we'll see how
Perfect.
that how that how that plays out.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh, pour one out for the Bitcoin Cash receivers. That's too bad.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I wonder is BSV in there as well? I wonder.
Yeah,
It's
I
worth
actually don't know the list
something.
of them. It is worth something. Yeah, that you can then put back
Yeah,
into Bitcoin.
I didn't meant yeah, absolutely. I didn't include it in our show notes here, but I did see. I think it was Charlie Spears tweeted out. Maybe it was yesterday or the day before that there's I guess one miner now, one miner now on Bitcoin Cash that controls like well over 50% of the network, and obviously
Ooh,
that's like a huge, huge centralization risk.
yeah,
Um,
red.
so yeah, we'll see how that plays out, I guess. But
Hmm,
fortunately, we don't have to worry about that on Bitcoin.
yeah. And then how is Germany factoring into the possible downside of the markets today?
So I feel like not as many people are talking about this as they probably should be. I There was Germany news and also some US news this week that kind of made me a little bit bullish, and I was kind of just surprised that, not as
Hmm.
many people are talking about this, but we'll start with Germany. I think, they basically announced, or it was revealed or whatever, that they have over 1,000 Bitcoin in their sort of in a reserve, like a Bitcoin state reserve. And I didn't even know that, for one, that they were holding that much Bitcoin. That's I mean, Germany is obviously a huge country. Um, so, they had transferred, I'll read the news story here. They had transferred a total of 1,047 Bitcoin, with 547 Bitcoin sent to flow traders and 500 Bitcoin deposited into 139PO, likely for institutional and OTC services. So they're moving Bitcoin around, potentially selling it, potentially trading it. Um, but just yeah, the fact that they had this much Bitcoin to begin with is pretty incredible. And it says, they move this little bit around. But it says despite these transactions, the government still holds approximately 41,000 Bitcoin, valued at around $2.3 billion. And this activity is part of a broad trend of government involvement in cryptocurrency. The U.S. and British governments also holding significant amounts of Bitcoin, totaling 12 billion and 3.3 billion, respectively.
I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. It's inevitable.
Yeah, so there's the somewhat related headline that many people probably saw this week, because I think it was trending quite a bit. was this headline where the title said, Trump sparks talks of Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset. And for one, that was a bit of a clickbait headline because Trump didn't come out and say it. It was just like in relation to Trump, I guess. Other people were talking about it. And so Trump didn't specifically say, I'm going to make it, a reserve asset, but just some other people were talking about it. But one bullish quote that I wanted to share, I wanted to read this part because I thought it was really interesting. So, despite the lack of any coherent Bitcoin strategy, the United States leads the digital gold rush. It is the largest nation state holder of Bitcoin, having seized the bulk of its Bitcoin stack from illicit actors over the last decade. The country also boasts the most network nodes, hash rate, and Bitcoin mindshare of any country in the world. These factors place the United States in a strong position to become the MicroStrategy of nations, should that be a policy for a future administration.
I mean, let freedom ring right there. I mean, that's pretty good news on a week that we are celebrating Independence Day.
Absolutely. And I think, it makes so much sense. And it's just interesting though to think about the fact that the US still does have this large reserve, but I guess I wouldn't call it a strategic reserve because it doesn't seem like the government is very pro Bitcoin.
Right.
They just haven't, but they haven't sold it all, right? So they're holding it for some reason. I'm not sure if that reason is that they're just incredibly convicted or if there's just, a lot of tax issues or, compliance issues or whatever that kind of make them not be able to sell it all right away. But in any case, right, huge countries are holding Bitcoin. And I don't think enough people are talking about that.
It's true, because what dominates the news cycle is the latest quote from Gary Gensler or macro talks about what the Fed is going to do, because everything is based down to like most headlines are derived from price action. But yeah, I mean, look what's happening in Europe, in America, all over the world. I mean, and then there's Nayib Bukele, who had a pretty killer tweet too. Let me read that right now. So he said, yesterday, Bukele tweeted, "Congratulations to the people of the United States of America on your Independence Day. We are inspired by you, not by the ideals you hold now, but by the ideals you had in 1776 when you gained your freedom and built the foundations of your great country. We will follow that example. Happy 4th of July."
Wow, what a backhanded, passive aggressive compliment.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, we had to touch on this a little bit, that the most recent debate, I think Americans are kind of shocked right now that we're at the state where we have these two people in the golden years of their lives who are still possibly like the most likely to lead our country. And it's like, this is really the best that we have. So when you compare the ideals that America was founded on by these incredibly talented, passionate, articulate founders who created something unreal and long lasting, we'll see if it can last forever. You compare that to just some of the corruption that we see everywhere and how frustrating it is, and the breakdown, the widening wealth gaps. It's understandable that people like Bukele can make that backhanded compliment and point out the stark difference between the ideals that were around when we started our country versus some of the imperfections that plague us today.
Yeah, I mean, it's our own fault, right? We voted these two candidates, into their, the places that they're in. So, yeah, for anybody that caught the debate, I mean, it was definitely just unfortunate to watch kind of the two leading folks just be in the state that they're in.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think that's mostly what we had on. I think Shaylee was trying to come up, but maybe we're having some connection issues or Twitter's rugging us or something. I think we do have Peace Love Music who's requesting on, and we'll go ahead and bring him up in a minute here. But let's get Shaylee back.
Requesting
yeah.
too.
Hopefully Twitter's not rugging us today.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, Shaylee.
I wanted to thanks for the great show, by the way. I always enjoy listening to you all talk about the week's events. Um, so I wanted to kind of like give my opinion on why some governments might be holding Bitcoin. As much as we are optimistic about Bitcoin, I'm not sure all the governments are holding it in their treasuries because they're bullish like us, but it's because they've seized it from criminals. There's a lot of like anti-money laundering and you know, like investigate criminal investigations and that have gone on for like, you know, since the beginning of Bitcoin, um, Silk Road and all that, where because the Bitcoin blockchain is so traceable and transparent and it's all out there, they're able to more easily certain types of criminals and then work with like white hat hackers or their own internal folks to then collect some of that Bitcoin and then maybe they just didn't sell it. So that's what I think.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely true. I mean the biggest, the highest profile case of that was, like you mentioned, Silk Road, and there was, very famously, there was Tim Draper, right, that purchased a really large chunk of that Bitcoin that was originally seized in Silk Road for himself, and that was what kind of elevated Tim Draper, or not elevated because he was already pretty wealthy, but that elevated him, at least in the Bitcoin circles, for being very convicted in Bitcoin very early on, right? That was years and years and years ago that he made that purchase, so that was a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Tim Draper had purchased it from there. I knew he had a lot of Bitcoin, but always learn something new on
Hopefully,
this show.
I'm not wrong on that. I'm pretty like I've thought that that was the case, but long story, I don't know. Is that tracking or?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of digging just now and pinned a tweet. This is on Yahoo Finance from April, and the largest government Bitcoin holdings go to number 1, US. Very close second is China, and then a distant third is the UK, then Germany, and then El Salvador is just getting its way up in the top 5.
Yeah, pretty interesting to just see. I mean, obviously, El Salvador is, marketing their Bitcoin, the fact that they hold Bitcoin much more than the US or, any other country is.
Right.
But yeah, just interesting, to see that. And yeah, that's a great link that you shared there.
Yeah. To Shaylee's point, like, they have this Bitcoin not because they want to, but because they are confiscating it.
Yeah. Yeah, they confiscated it, but the fact that they weren't quick to sell it or get rid of it is, I mean, I don't know if it's a good sign or a bad sign or not, but it's just interesting.
True. I see Peace Love with a hand up.
To ask that question to someone in the U.S. government to find out the answer. We'll see.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Shaylee is in DC literally, so we can we can get some inside scoop on that hopefully soon.
Shaylee, do you interact with Dennis Porter at all? Because I know he spends a lot of time in DC trying to educate everyone there.
That name sounds familiar. I feel like I might have come across him. Let me see.
Dennis Porter.
Yes, he's in my network, but I haven't talked to him in a while.
I know he's doing, so he was one of the most active voices on Twitter Spaces and something called Clubhouse that the young kids might know about, the old kids now might know about. Being a Bitcoin advocate, he had a podcast for a while, and then he kind of laid low. He wasn't on my radar for a while. And And then he started doing, I think he may have, I don't know if he was releasing a book, but he just was really getting into the trenches and bringing books to Congress people and just trying to pound the pavement. And he's been focusing on getting the right people elected. So he's
Yes,
trying to
he's
hit
with the
like every
Satoshi.
level, right?
Yes, he's with the Satoshi Action Fund. Okay, that's how
Yes.
I know him. Yeah, he's awesome. I've heard him on like a podcast, and I know somebody that works at the Satoshi Action Fund, but I don't know if I've actually met him in person.
Yeah, it seems like he's doing really great work. Like I said, getting into the trenches. Okay, that's good. The Satoshi Act Fund.
Yeah, so they're basically working a lot at the state level to educate governments and get legislation underway around um, protecting like Bitcoin and just yes, which I think is amazing. Um, yeah, so I'm in touch with that team, and I'm also advocating that they include layer twos in their research and sharing of information with the state government. But I mean, it's like first, it's such an uphill battle that just sometimes they have to stick to like high level talking points.
Yeah, true. I just pinned in the nest Dennis Porter's profile and pinned a tweet for anyone curious.
Yeah, definitely great work happening there, and yeah, a lot of great work at the state level as well, right? A lot of crypto friendly states that are out there. Obviously, Texas super into Bitcoin mining. There's Wyoming that has a lot of regulation that is friendly to crypto companies, and probably many more that I'm not thinking of off the cuff, but pretty cool. That states as well are kind of almost competing, right, for crypto companies to come build in their states.
Yeah, I mean, look at in Florida. How can I help? What Mayor Juarez, right?
Absolutely.
Tweeted, "How can I help?" And that like triggered a massive move. I feel like that was I think a lot of people were already like thinking about moving out of California, and that coincided with this catalyst, this resurgence of tech moving to Florida.
Yeah, how could I forget Florida? Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing
because it's so big. It's just there.
Well, anyway, I know Peace Love Music's been very patiently waiting. Peace Love Music, friend of Leather. Shout out to Node Rocks, and yeah, let's. How's it going?
What's up? What's up? Thanks for having this spaces. I love the updates on what's going on with you guys. Just wanted to chime in with a couple of things to Shaylee's point, and to reinforce your agreement with that Longstreet. I believe that the German one of the wallets that had the most amount that just was transferred to exchanges from Germany for Bitcoin holdings was, I think, the German Federal Police. So it is really confiscated money. It's not the government's just like bearish on Bitcoin. But I did have a couple of other things. I specifically to the dot locker thing. I love it. I think it's great that the more people we can onboard from Web 2 to Web 3 is always positive and beneficial. And I think it's a great development. I do know that there were some people with .btc names that were a little frustrated at the idea that someone's going to come along and have a .locker name the same as their .btc name, and they're not getting protected for their name. But I guess that doesn't really matter it shouldn't matter to most people. The only thing I guess I'm assuming that there would be some backwards functionality from the BNS to Web 2 if we're developing it with .locker this way. So is there going to be a way to transfer the .btc IDs to be compatible with Web 2 applications?
So our CEO Manib actually tweeted this out the other day, sort of teasing what some of the functionality that we're going to also come out with .locker for other namespaces, on BNS. And part of that is you'll be able to go to, Manib obviously has manib.btc. You'll be able to go to manib.btc.locker, and that can resolve, to a website. And you don't need to own a .locker domain for that to happen. So, there's going to be some functionality, and there will be more to come as well. Just in terms of, I guess benefits for existing BNS holders. But altogether, I think just if you zoom out a bit, this is good for the BNS ecosystem as a whole. It might not necessarily be, we're not like the goal of .locker is not to pump .btc names, right? Like, there's different sort of motivations for why you might want to hold a .btc name. Some of them are speculation. Some of them are, I just want to have a namespace, and I want to be able to interact with it maybe in a more decentralized way or in an anonymous way, right? There's a lot of motivations for it. So there will be, more use cases, I think, coming for BNS names. And overall, we're signing on new partners, new, registrars are getting on board. There's going to be a lot more infrastructure that is now going to be dedicated towards growing BNS. And that's very exciting. And anyone that's an existing holder of BNS should be very excited for that. And, you might have mentioned it because you might have missed it because we mentioned it towards the beginning of the space. We are planning a dedicated Twitter space for .locker, where we're going to actually have the people that are actually building it and building BNS v2 and everything like that. That's going to be coming hopefully next week. We're just trying to lock in times for everybody to make sure that everyone's going to be able to attend. But we're looking forward to having that and to have it be a little bit more of a community space where it's more open and people can come in and ask questions. I've had some really good discussions with folks. I'll shout out like Mr. Wagme, who many in the Stacks ecosystem are familiar with. Had a nice conversation with him about it recently. So yeah, a lot of good conversations, a lot of really good questions, and we're definitely looking forward to answering a lot of those. But like this show is called Good for Bitcoin. I think .locker is good for BNS, and we're excited to talk more about that soon.
Awesome, thank you so much. I appreciate that thorough response.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that I've been thinking a lot about. Just seeing the feedback from folks, and we do appreciate it, right? We're not gonna be the type of account that's gonna start hiding replies or anything like that. Like, we want this to be an open discussion. So we really appreciate everybody's comments and feedback and questions that we've gotten so far.
Thanks, Peace Love Music. I want to shout out a couple audience members, just repeat people who I'm starting to see in regular shows. Of course, we have LMNO.BTC always showing up, and Kabi in the audience showed up. He's been listening to every Leather Lounge, and he popped up on stage last time just to share some of his observations and thoughts, and then express that he's been getting a lot out of our shows. So thanks for jumping on, Kabi, and tuning in every episode.
Yeah, really great that we're sort of growing this Good for Bitcoin community. We actually haven't mentioned it in a few weeks, but we do have a console space. I'll try to get it pinned up here before the end of the show. But we do have Club Bitcoin that's on console. So if you join console, join Club Bitcoin, and it's just a place where we get to talk about Bitcoin. Pretty cool stuff.
It's a good groove. Yep. And console has a new mobile app updated, so make sure that you are on the latest version. We should also mention in this show, I mentioned it in the Leather Lounge opening up in our PSA, but the malicious SIP10 tokens that have been showing up in everyone's Leather wallets. Leather was real quick to move to just protect people from these. So you want to make sure that you're on the most up-to-date version of Leather Wallet. I can look that up here in a minute.
Yeah, just to add on that, so basically there was some malicious people that had created these SIP10 tokens and airdropped them to a bunch of wallets, and the name of the SIP10 token was a URL. So by receiving these tokens, the tokens themselves, I guess technically are not malicious. So if you received these tokens, your wallet isn't immediately at risk or anything like that. But the URLs that were contained within these tokens were malicious. So if you visited the URL and you connected Leather to it and you accepted their transaction requests, then you could potentially lose some other tokens. But just by having them in there, they're not inherently dangerous. But we did release an update, just a couple days ago that basically just hides them from your wallet balances altogether. So you just don't have to think about them because they just won't even show up anymore.
Yeah, that was good moving. I saw someone say that if you try to move them out of your wallet, that could still result in a drain, but I don't think that's true.
That's not true. I mean, I would just leave them.
Right.
But, why waste the fees? Especially because we're holding them now, or we're hiding them now, I mean. But
Right.
there was definitely some misconception, and we wanted to make sure that we cleared that up. Just by having them in your wallet, it's not inherently dangerous. But if you visit those links, and those links were sort of disguising themselves as legitimate companies in the space. There was like a fake like Bitflow token, for example, where you visited the URL that was in there and it looked like the Bitflow site, but it wasn't actually the Bitflow site. Stuff like that. So definitely no good. Definitely not good for Bitcoin. But so that was just a little bit of context, I guess, in some of the stuff that we were seeing there. But I mean, you don't have to worry as long as Leather is updated, on your device. You won't see them and you won't have to worry about them, and your assets are safe as long as you don't connect to a random website that you are unfamiliar with.
Go Leather. That's awesome. Real quick, I just pinned a tweet because next week, breaking news, we're going to have Charisma and another Stacks OG, Rosar, is going to be joining us next week. So next week's show on Thursday at 3 p.m. is going to be about a new platform called Charisma. So everyone check in with us on Thursday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm really excited to hear more about Charisma. To be honest, I haven't been following it too much, but I have been following Rosar, and he's a huge friend of the show. When Runes came out, we did a special sort of Runes Twitter space, I guess, with Rosar, talking about how to set up your nodes, and that was a lot of fun. So Rosar's definitely an OG in the space, huge Welsh OG as well. Shout out to the Welsh community. Mm-hmm. And looking forward to hearing more about Charisma and what he's been building. It sounds very exciting.
Yeah, I was exploring the website, and there is a faucet right now, so you can get some of their utility tokens. So yeah, it's worth exploring if you want to do a little bit of homework and due diligence before the show, and bring some questions too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll bring one final plug, which is that a lot of our team is going to be in Nashville in a couple of weeks for Bitcoin Nashville. We're planning some certain things. We might actually be doing some live Twitter spaces, like live. We'll see how that goes. I saw that based on actually a tweet from Hero Gamer yesterday, that Stuart and Bit by Bit are both going to be there, and they're of course from the Welsh Twitter spaces that they've been hosting, the 100-day giveaways on Welsh, and all the other really great things that they do for the community, with DGrant's community as well. So they're going to be there. So shout out to them, and excited to potentially do a live version of Good for Bitcoin or something along those lines. Could be really fun.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. I can't make it out, and I think them going to Nashville was such a good idea. So I made it last year. I'm gonna have to miss it this year.
Yeah, so we'll be there for the Building on Bitcoin, event that the Stacks Foundation puts on, but a lot of really wonderful, outside of Stacks as well, people will be there. We have people representing Lightning and Rootstock and all the great Bitcoin layers. So that's usually the event that I look forward to the most in terms of side events. But there's going to be a lot of other stuff as well. I know Shaylee's been working on a lot of things behind the scenes on, just things with different communities. So we'll be sharing more, I think, in the next week or two on all the different side events and all the things that Leather and Trust Machines and everybody's going to be a part of. But yeah, really looking forward to meeting everybody. If you're going to be there, I'm really excited. Well, if nobody has anything else, I think we can wrap here. I think it was a great show. Thank you for everybody for coming on. Shaylee, always great to hear from you. Peace, love, music. Really nice. Thanks for coming up and chatting. And have a great weekend, everybody. And we will see you next week. And we'll be announcing. I'm looking forward to that charisma show on next Thursday, and then hopefully next Friday we'll do a dedicated space for Dot Locker. So looking forward to that. And until next time, have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.